Hello and welcome to this webinar brought to you in collaboration with Access to Europe here from Station F, the world's biggest startup incubator. My name is Sebastian Konzek and I work as lawyer with the French-German Chamber of Commerce in Paris. Today I will make a short introduction to the French regulations regarding the posting of workers to France. If your company wants to send its employees to France, it must respect certain formalities and fulfill various obligations. If it does not, it can be severely punished. There's posting of an employee, or in French, détachement, if the employee provides a service on the instructions of his employer in his home country during a limited period of time outside of his home country. Posting of employers to France is subject to a number of conditions. The employer must have a permanent establishment outside of France. The employee is assigned a task which is carried out outside of his home country. This task is limited in time. The employee is still bound by instructions to the employer in his home country. At the end, the employee must resume his or her functions in his or her country. And, also from the point of view of social law, the expected duration of the posting may not exceed 24 months. A posting therefore includes any performance of a professional activity on the condition that the person to be posted is an employee or a worker who is employed within the framework of a domestic employment relationship, is still bound by instructions to the employer in his home country, carries out his activity in a country, for example France, other than the country of the employer, for example Germany, and this activity is of a certain limited duration. However, there is no case of posting if the worker already is employed in France, or already lives in France, or there are indications that there will be no return of the employee to his home country. Also, the regulations do not apply to the self-employed. The posting rules apply to employed persons only. If self-employed persons travel temporarily to France for their work, the posting rules do not apply to them since they are not considered to be employed. However, it is advisable to carry documents identifying the self-employed person as such in the event of a control by the Labor Inspectorate. Be aware that if a self-employed is accompanied by ordinary employees, they must be registered, as the posting rules apply to them. Sometimes the posting of workers to France is subject to the obtention of a work permit. Employers established outside the European Union must obtain a work permit for the duration of the period of activity in France. For employers established in the Union, but whose employees are nationals of a non-European country, the workers can be posted without having to provide a proof of a work permit in France. However, they must hold a title authorizing them to work in the country where their employer is established. Even if the employee does his work in France, the law applicable to the employment relationship in his home country may, in principle, continue to apply during the posting period. However, the so-called hardcore of the mandatory labor law regulations of the receiving state has also to be respected in order to guarantee the same working and employment conditions that benefit to local workers. This applies in particular to the minimum wage, maximum working time regulations, health and safety regulations, etc. There are three types of posting of workers to France. First, the posting may occur on behalf of the employer under a contract concluded between the employer and the recipient of a service in France. The posting may also occur between branches of the same company or between companies of the same group. And finally, the posting may occur on behalf of the employer for its own account and without a contract between the employer and the recipient in France. There is also a possibility to post workers in the context of a temporary employment through temporary employment agencies. The employer has then to complete various formalities. An employer who is about to post one or more employees under a contract concluded between him as the employer and the recipient of a service in France, or as part of an internal company or group mobility scheme,
has to make a preliminary declaration to the French Labor Inspectorate before the first day of work in France. In addition, the employer has to designate a local representative to act as contact for the French authorities. The local representative establishes contact with the French regulatory authorities, such as the Labor Inspectorate, the police, the customs and tax authorities. The representative may be any natural or legal person. The only requirement is fixed address in France, and the person must speak French, as the French authorities do only speak French. It is also possible to appoint postal workers as representatives. They have to be present and decide for the entire duration of the activity and have to provide a French address. This can be a hotel address or the construction site address. You may also ask a French local, like a lawyer, or for example the French-German Chamber of Commerce. In order to appoint a representative, the employer sends a declaration of representation to be completed by the representative and which is countersigned by the employer. This is the so-called désignation d'un représentant en matière de détachement temporaire de salariés par une entreprise étrangère. I have here an example of a declaration of representation. The declaration has to include the surname, first name, date and place of birth of the representative, his email and postal address in France, the telephone number, the dates and duration of the designation which may not exceed the period of the posting of the employees, as the representation is limited in time to the duration of the posting, the designation and signature of the foreign business, and the acceptance and signature of the representative by which he confirms the nomination. The most important duty of the representative is to keep various documents which must be immediately available in case of an inspection by the regulatory authorities, usually the Labor Inspectorate. These are, for example, but there are many more, employment contracts, proof of the salary paid, working hours, proof of social security, the A1 form, proof of the medical aptitude of the employees, the appointment as representative, and, in particular, the posting declarations. And finally, according to actual French regulations, all documents must be drawn up in French or translated into French, as, again, the French authorities do only speak French. In order to prevent abuse and dumping, France has a number of information obligations and formalities that must be fulfilled before posting to France. Therefore, a foreign company from any European member state that sent its employees to France is obliged to register them with the French Labor Inspectorate, or in French, Inspection du Travail, before starting work. This is the so-called Déclaration préalable de détachement. Registration takes place online via the Système d'information sur les prestations du service international, or the so-called SIPSI portal, which you can reach on www.sipsi.travail.gouv.fr.
The SIPSI application enables foreign businesses to inform online the Labor Inspectorate of workers who are posted to France. Using the SIPSI remote service means that the foreign employer is not required to send a declaration by other means, especially he doesn't need to seek out the contact details of the Labor Inspectorate that had territorial competence. The portal is available in both French and English. There is also a user manual available online. As the procedure may be complex, the French-German Chamber of Commerce is happy to help you. You may find our contacts on our internet site www.francoallemand.com. Don't hesitate to contact us.
In order to make a remote declaration, the user must first set up an account and complete all the fields of the registration form. The registration form has 3 sections. In the first section, the user enters the details of the foreign business. The email address entered will be used as the login. In the second section, the user enters information of the director of the business. And in the third section, the user has to enter a CAPTCHA code to complete the registration. To submit the information that have been entered, the user finally clicks on the Enregistrer or Save button. When the form is validated, An email message is sent to the user to confirm that the account has been set up. The message is sent to the email address indicated in the form. Next, the user is redirected to the login screen. Once logged in, the user can access the CIBSE homepage. From the homepage, the user can choose between 3 declaration templates on the left-hand side of the screen: the usual case or template 1, the intra-group case or template 2, and finally the temporary work case or template 3. You choose template 1 if you post workers to France under a contract concluded between you as employer and the recipient of a service in France. You choose template 2 if you post employees between branches of the same company or between companies of the same group. And finally, you choose template 3 if you post workers to France through temporary employment agencies as part of a temporary assignment scheme. Let us use as an example the template number 1, the usual case. The input form is made of several areas. On your left-hand side you can see a list of tabs. Each tab contains a set of specific fields which must all be completed. Some of the fields, like the Foreign Business tab, are automatically pre-completed using the user's account business information. Once all tabs completed, you may choose an action in the field below. These are the 3 round icons. The left icon allows the declaration to be recorded in the untransmitted state. The user can later modify it. Data entered concerning directors, representatives, service, principals, accommodation, bodies, workers will be preserved. The icon in the middle does erase the current data input. The user is then redirected to the list of declarations. Lastly, the icon on the right enables the declaration to be transmitted to the Labor Inspectorate. If the declaration is complete, and if the user confirms transmission, the declaration is sent to the Labor Inspectorate. A SOFA form is generated in PDF format and is attached to the declaration. The SOFA form is then automatically sent by email to the user with a copy to the representative in France. The preliminary declaration as well as the appointment of a representative are mandatory. If you do not comply with these obligations, you risk paying substantial fines if you are controlled by the Labor Inspectorate. There are fines of €4,000 per offence in person and €8,000 per offence in person in the event of repeat offence within 2 years. Moreover, if the fines are not paid, the authority can forbid to the employer the start of work in France with a new posting. If the employer ignores this, the fine may increase up to €10,000 per offence in person. In addition to the obligation to register temporarily posted workers, foreign construction companies may also have to apply for a professional identification card for workers providing special services in France. This is the so-called BTP card. These services are defined as follows: excavation works, earthworks, drainage, construction works, assembly and dismantling of prefabricated components, finishing work, interior and exterior fittings, refurbishment, renovation, demolition, alteration, servicing, maintenance, repair of buildings, as well as the painting and cleaning work associated with such work and any ancillary work directly related to a construction site in France. However, these provisions are not applicable to some employees such as architects, experts, drivers, suppliers. The BTP card is a plastic card. It contains information about the worker, like his name and his photography, and the name of the employer. Applying for a BTP card is similar to registering via the CIBSE portal. The application for a BTP card must be made before the workers are sent to France. Please allow some time, as the cards are sent by postal services. During the application process, the declaration of posting has to be provided. You will have therefore to register your workers first via the CIBSE portal. The declaration is made by the employer or any person entitled to on the online BTP card platform, which you can reach on www.cartebtp.fr. After a payment of a fee of €10.80 per card, a card will be issued for each worker. The worker must carry the card with him during work on the construction site. If you do not comply with these obligations, you risk paying substantial fines if there is a control by the Labour Inspectorate. And, last but not least, there are some special conditions for the posting of employees in the transportation sector. Since 2016, foreign transport and shipping companies that post their employees to France have to register them before the first day of the transport and to appoint a local representative. The registration takes place via the CIPSI portal in the same way as for normal posting of workers. A posting confirmation must be made for each posted employee. This posting confirmation made by the company is valid for all transport operations within a maximum period of 6 months. Therefore, the confirmation may cover several posting operations during that period. The employee must carry the confirmation with him and be able to show it if he is controlled during the transport by any regulatory authorities such as the Labour Inspectorate, the police, the customs and tax authorities. Again, if you do not comply with these obligations, you risk paying substantial fines if there is a control.
Finally, there is a reform of the law on posting of workers to France. A recent French law from September 2018 has reformed the regulations regarding the posting of workers to France, which may make it easier for foreign companies to comply with the formalities. In fact, the French government has finally understood that strict rules may also restrict access to the French market and freedom of services within Europe. As a consequence, the formalities for posting of workers for its own account and if there is no French beneficiary have been abolished. Employers don't need then to proceed to declare the workers nor to nominate a French local representative. In addition, the posting of workers to France may soon be partially waived from formalities if the assignment is of short duration and in the context of services provided on an occasional basis. However, this is subject to the condition that services are provided in a field of activity defined by ministerial order. This order will also determine the maximum duration of the posting for each activity. In addition, a decree in the French Council of State will provide for adjustments to be made for the benefit of employers, in particular regarding the documents to be translated to French and submitted in the event of a control by the Labour Inspectorate. However, it should be noted that a possible simplification of the formalities does not exempt the foreign employer from complying with mandatory French regulations, like the protection of workers, nor does it avoid an eventual control by the Labour Inspectorate.
Feel free to contact us if you have questions regarding the posting of workers to France. You may find our contacts on www.francoallemande.com. We will be glad to help you. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day.